just ruled that ICE can now target people based on their skin color, their language, and their race. That seems unconstitutional. So they're finally saying the quiet part out loud. It was never about legality. It was always based on how can I inscribe law on particular groups based on their race to say they criminal. That's the reason why they was going after folks with Latino backgrounds, because y'all all had bought into the hypercriminality of that group. They already had manufactured and coerced y'all and believe in black folks as hypercriminal. That's the reason why he can justify going into areas that's predominantly black. So if the Supreme Court said that ICE can target people based on their race, and Trump said ICE helping them break down on crime, and I can go after the community that's seen as inherently being criminal and put ICE on them. Listen, man, they had put record high numbers in funding when it come to ICE. I'm talking about they the most funded law enforcement in American history. Y'all didn't think they was going to put that law enforcement funding on people they believe should be inherently policed? Man, education is elevation. You better pay attention. You better pay attention, goddammit.
So it is official. SCOTUS just made it possible, made it legal for ICE to detain anyone that looks Hispanic or speaks Spanish. So basically anyone who has my same skin complexion and speaks Spanish like I do. This is a direct violation of our 14th and 4th Amendment rights. We all know that the majority of these cosplay wannabe Call of Duty fucking wannabe ICE agents that Trump selected probably failed sociology class. So they don't know the difference between Puerto Ricans who are born in America, who are my skin complexion, and South Americans. So now SCOTUS has made it possible for people like myself who were born here, who served this country. And because I speak Spanish, if I decide that I want to go out with my mom one day and we decide that we want to say something in Spanish or whatever, we can be detained. This is not America. The America that we once knew disappeared 8 months ago. And the America that I once served proudly and honorably no longer exists. For any Latino or any Hispanic or anyone for that matter who is not from this country that is coming to this country to come and visit, this is not the America that used to be. Stay your ass at home. Don't give America not one more dollar. Don't come over here. Don't go and tour all of the, different historical places. Don't do it. Because it's bad enough that American citizens like myself who are Hispanic now have to watch our backs.
Funky ass Donald Trump Supreme Court has just ruled that it's official. In America, only white is right. And if you ain't white, you ain't got no rights. Welcome to being a nigga. Latinos, use a nigga. Asians, use a nigga. Everybody who don't present white, use a nigga now. Welcome to our motherfucking world. For all the people who've been delulu talking about, I haven't seen nothing like this in terms of the Supreme Court saying you can racially profile since the internment camps. Bitch, get real. Come back down here to planet Earth because black folks have been dealing with this shit since forever. Why you think we have driving while black? Hell, crossing the street while black. It's because we have never stopped dealing with racial profiling. However, this is on a whole nother level, I must admit. Because I know some people especially black people, be like, well, we always dealt with this shit. I'm going to tell you what's new. What is supposed to happen is that there is supposed to be a thing called the Fourth Amendment in which there is supposed to be some sort of probable cause in order for federal law enforcement to stop you in the context of immigration enforcement. Now, all that shit's out the window. All they have to do is try to say that they think you're a race of people that are here illegally. Your accent means that you're here illegally, or hell, even jobs. It ain't no more black jobs, it's the illegals jobs. So this is a problem for everybody. I tried to warn y'all asses that citizenship is on the ballot. They can now stop, harass, detain anybody the fuck they want, as long as they give this excuse. Now, for those of you who say, well, I'm willing to get stopped and ID checked because I want to get these illegals out. Okay, well, that's real cute until they don't even fucking check your ID. Until they just pack your ass up in a motherfucking van and your mama is searching through the goddamn mattress for your birth certificate to get your ass out of jail because you got an ICE hold on you. That's actually happened to a U.S. citizen. That's real cute until you riding around and they arrest you and they confiscate your belongings. That's something that happened to somebody in Oklahoma. Now you asked out of your motherfucking cash or whatever the situation may be. So I don't think that we want to open up the door to blanket mass profiling for anybody in this country who is now white. I don't think that's the door that we want to walk through. But guess what? it has motherfucking arrived, all right? So, look, stay on your P's and Q's. Y'all need to start reading these motherfucking what to do in case ICE approaches your ass, because these people are out on a mission and they don't give a damn who gets swept up with it. And guess what? If they do make a mistake on getting your black ass, trust and believe, look at what they're doing to Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They're going to find something to pin on you. Look at what they're doing to Lisa Cook. They try to find something on you to justify illegally detaining you. So, this ain't just a Latino thing, which, by the way, there are black Latinos. This ain't just an immigrant thing. This is now an American thing. And so everybody who ain't black, but ain't white, who ain't been used to being fucked with by law enforcement, too bad, nigga, because you one of us now.
One thing about America is it's such an embarrassing place. It's really the ghetto, and it's racist. And there are people who try to pretend like it is not, but as each day passes, it becomes more and more clear that minorities are not seen as equals in America. This country is run by a racist president who is backed by a racist organization who wrote a racist book about all of the racist things they want to do, and then somehow the majority of the country was like, yeah, let's do that. And so you want black and brown people to, I don't know what you want us to do, honestly. I don't know what you expect from us, how you expect us to feel, but you show your colors all the time. And you can't, I just stop trying to hide it. It's so insulting that you attempt to say that this isn't a racist place. And today's rant is brought to you by the Supreme Court's ruling where essentially a lower court looked at the ICE raids that are going on in California and said, no, you cannot do this. You cannot violate people's Fourth Amendment rights to a legal search and seizure and pluck people out just because they speak Spanish or just because they look Hispanic or just because they're working in a certain place. And the Supreme Court said, oh, no, go ahead and do that, right? So they're saying, you go ahead and do that until this makes its way up through the courts. So it's not the final decision, but what they said in it was it gives preview to how they would essentially rule. And what they said was, race shouldn't be the only factor, but it should be a relevant factor. Since fucking when? Actually, since fucking always. That's who we are as a country. That's who we've always been as a country. That is why we needed DEI and affirmative action and all these things. Because as much as you want to be like, oh, I don't see race, you absolutely do see race. America is a racist place. And everybody that's minority knows that. So if anybody's sick of this shit and wants to move to Belize with me, I bought land there. It's super gorgeous. It's very diverse. They don't have these racist issues that we have here. It's super cheap. I mean, it's like paradise. Seriously. So, you guys think about it. I wish for you all to join me. And we'll come back and talk later about whatever other bullshit this dude's going to do today. So I'll see you later if I don't get picked up by ICE for looking Hispanic.
Did you see what the Supreme Court just did? They basically gave Trump the green light to unleash ICE on Los Angeles once again. This ruling tossed out the protections that stopped ICE from doing mass sweeps. You know, where they pull people over just because of how they look, where they work, or what language they speak. And let's be real, that means they just okayed racial profiling. That means they gave the okay for people, even U.S. citizens, to get harassed or detained simply because they look like an immigrant. Justice Sonia Sotomayor laid it out in her dissent. This erodes our Fourth Amendment protections. This is terrifying for our immigrant community, but it should be terrifying for every single one of us. Because if they can strip the rights away from one group of people, they can do it to every single one of us. But here's the thing, we can't just sit there waiting for the courts to save us, because clearly they won't. We have to look out for each other. Know your rights, share that knowledge, document raids, protect your neighbors, show up to protests, and show up for legal clinics. This is about community defense now. If they're going to use fear as a weapon, the only way we can fight back is solidarity. Be loud, be disruptive, and refuse to let people get disappeared quietly. They may have the courts on their side, but we have each other, and that matters a hell of a lot more because there's more of us.
We have huge breaking news right now. Just minutes ago, a federal judge in Los Angeles has ruled that the Trump administration's ICE officials have been arresting people without reasonable suspicion simply based on their accent, based on the way they look, essentially confirming a lot of what we already knew publicly, that there is a lot of racial profiling happening in the United States of America. Why? Because they need to meet this 3,000 quota for deportations that White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller had promised and had wanted. And well, now a federal judge is saying, you must stop these mass deportation efforts. You must stop essentially the racial profiling of individuals across California. Now, California has been the hub of these efforts because that's where most of the immigration activity has been over the past several weeks, especially following the protests in Los Angeles. It's a major ruling. We'll see what happens next. Trump is going to appeal. He has to follow this ruling. So stay tuned and follow along stay up to date on all the news you need to know about. There'll be much more to come.
Supreme Court has officially allowed ICE to go after people based on race, ethnicity, and the language they speak. This decision was made after smaller courts had halted ICE's activities in Southern California because it was proven that they were targeting people based on their race and ethnicity. Now the Supreme Court has ruled that it's okay to racially profile people when it comes to detaining people for immigration. Not only that, ICE now has the okay to target people based on the language they speak and the types of jobs that they do, which means that they're also allowed to legally target employers who hire a lot of low-income BIPOC individuals. This ruling also allows ICE to detain anybody who happens to be at a workplace that is currently being raided. So for example, if you're at a car wash and ICE shows up to detain the employees, ICE can also detain you if you're just there getting your car washed. This decision has given ICE the power to indiscriminately detain anyone they want. I'm also already seeing a lot of news sources reporting how this is severely going to impact the Latino community, which it is. I don't want to downplay that. However, this is not going to stop at racially profiling people for speaking Spanish. They're going to start going after anybody speaking any language that isn't English. Again, they are not stopping at Latinos. They're going after all immigrants, and that includes Asian immigrants, African immigrants, anyone who's not ethnically white. This Supreme Court decision is terrifying, and it's made racial profiling and discrimination legal again. Everyone should be angry at this decision, and we should be warning everyone and preparing to protect our neighbors who are in danger.
We should not have to live in a country where the government can seize anyone who looks Latino, speaks Spanish, and appears to work a low-wage job. Rather than stand idly by while our constitutional freedoms are lost, I dissent. That's my girl, Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor, in her dissent in today's ruling that allowed the Trump administration to let immigrant agents target people just for how they look, what language they speak, or the kind of work they do. Our most basic constitutional rights are being trampled by a 6-3 majority in the court. Sotomayor's dissent is a reminder that standing up for those rights is what loving this country actually looks like. So her words had me thinking all day, especially in a time when I just don't know what to do. I can continue to speak out and spread the word and dissent. So, rather than stand idly by while our constitutional freedoms are lost, I dissent.
So the Supreme Court just gave ICE the green card, y'all, to basically racially profile and do stuff based off skin color and accent. So you mean to tell me you can't just walk down the street and be a civilian, right? They're trying to traffic that fucking bad because that's exactly what's happening. They're trafficking. No one's allowed to have due process anymore. You know what I'm saying? And it's crazy as hell to me how at least 20% of the white population are illegal aliens. Since you guys want to classify people as illegal aliens, right? At least 20% of the population. And the fact that they're able to now racially profile, just walk across and just go say, hey, you know what I'm saying? Just fuck people for no reason. That makes no sense. The rage is raging. They're literally living. They're laughing at us right now. They're laughing at everyone right now. Like this shit right here. When they said World War III, this is what they meant. This is what they meant. When they said Department of War, the war was not against anyone that's outside of the United States. The war is on the U.S. citizens. That's what's happening. That's what's happening. This is a war on everyone, not anyone outside of the U.S. It's the ones that's already in the U.S. that they're having a war with. They're raging a war with the citizens. They want us to act the fucking fool. They want everyone to starve to death. Like, this shit is insane. It's really, really insane. And to everyone who has, you know, protection to protect themselves, use it. Use it. Do what you have to do. Because the way that this shit is going right now, the rate that things are going right now, is getting crazy as hell. You guys are literally sending the military. You're turning military brothers and sisters against civilians. And to anyone that's in the military that's abiding by these fucking laws and these rules that you're given to go and harm innocent civilians and go and, you know, this shit is fucked up. All for some money, I couldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. It's really mad. It's mad crazy. Crazy. But the Supreme Court literally just gave them the rights to racially profile anyone at any given time. That's what just happened. Okay.
Do you have your passport?
Somewhere.
Can I see your passport, please? Do you have your visa?
I don't need a visa, sir. I am a U.S. citizen.
When did you become a U.S. citizen?
When? 2006.
Okay. Well, do you have your passport?
In a safe, but I don't have.
This is going to happen more and more. The Supreme Court cleared the way for federal agents to racially profile immigrants based on their color of skin, accent, and their race. And this is going to impact U.S. citizens like this woman who looks Hispanic. Previous federal courts said federal agents cannot use race, where people work, what they look like to detain them. The Supreme Court says no, it's making their job more complicated and will allow it. As a result, you're going to see more people being detained, including U.S. citizens. This is going to harm families and small businesses. The fight is not over. We'll see more appeals on this, but this is a sad day for immigration and for immigrants. Follow me for updates just like this one. The
Supreme Court basically said today it's okay to be just a little racist. Question is whether ICE can stop people based on the color of their skin, the language they speak, and where they happen to be. They round people up at a car wash, for example, or Home Depot. Now, some people would say that is totally reasonable. That's where you find people who don't have citizenship, who don't have paperwork, and so it makes sense. That the court's just being practical, that percentage-wise, you're going to find a whole lot of people ICE is looking for in these places. But that's just not how it works in this country. At least not how it's supposed to work. Anybody on U.S. soil, whether they're citizens or not, under the Constitution have the Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable search and seizure. We all know that how they're doing it is highly unreasonable. The tactics, the vitriol, the overkill, harassing U.S. citizens who just happen to be brown. This exposes a much deeper truth. This is a thinly veiled assault on brown people. May we hold our heads up high. Viva la la!
I fear today marks the point in which we've stepped into Nazi Germany-style territory, under the second Orange Turds administration at least. And it genuinely terrifies me that not enough people are talking about what recently happened on this app. And I may be a small creator and I may only reach like 40 people, 70 people, but I'm speaking up. We all need to be talking about this because it affects all of us and we need to be sharing this. In a 6-3 ruling today, the Supreme Court just lifted their restrictions on ICE, allowing them to stop and temporarily detain anyone, just solely based on race, language, the job type you might have, or the location that they find you in, and you're deemed suspicious because, you're not white. Yeah, so, if you're not white, and if you speak a language other than English, you can be snatched off the street, at church, at the grocery store. You be washing your car, just because you don't look, white. You could be chasing the American dream, working your ass off, and because you're not white, you're not gonna get it. Now, this ruling came via the shadow docket, so no full briefing, no oral arguments, just there. And if you think about it, if you genuinely think about it, people parents, neighbors, customers, co-workers, they're just gonna start disappearing for days. You may never see them again. And they may disappear longer than just a couple of days. They're gonna miss out work, they're gonna miss out school, they're gonna lose money, they're gonna lose their rent, they're gonna have forgotten bills. What if they have pets at the house when they get detained? They're gonna have those pets wandering around alone, starving to death probably. And who's doing this snatching, right? Often ICE themselves is not identifying themselves. They're wearing face masks and they're acting like predators. If a man approaches me in a mask and they're trying to take me, you bet your ass I'm not going to the second location. That's the very first thing that was drilled into my head as a kid. Never go to the second location. So this isn't law enforcement. This is terror on the American people. But I'm stating the obvious. We all know this. And so the lower courts in California, they called this unconstitutional, and they actively blocked it in the beginning. They pushed back tooth and nail, and the Supreme Court reversed it all. They just reversed it all. Now, unless they issue a full opinion, this precedent stands. My deepest fear about this is that this sets the stage for every win we've had against this regime to be tossed out. Small court victories that protect our rights, they may not stand under these court rulings. And if that's not going to protect us, what's left then? What's left to protect us? If this keeps going, blue states should band together and soon refuse to enforce any of the Supreme Court rulings that violate human rights. I think that's what we should do. After the overturning of Roe v. Wade, that should be the start date of when we stopped listening to this fucking administration. And I'm not a lawyer. Don't, take my words with a grain of salt and my observation with a grain of salt. Go watch, Rachel Cohen or Law by Mike. They explain the logistics and the legal implications way better than I ever could. We need their voices amplified now, actually, more than ever. So I would go check out their stuff. I wanted to share this, and I wanted to get this out there because we have entered into a dangerous era. This is a very dangerous time for anyone of a different race to be on the streets of America. If this is America, why are we suddenly okay not being free unless we look a certain way, right? If you, as a fellow patriot, can't see the erosion of democracy, this creeping terror that's coming and spreading through our streets, you are being willfully blind. I don't want this for my kids. I don't want this for your kids. I don't want this for anyone's kids or anyone's family or anyone's uncles, nieces, nephews, cousins, aunts. I don't want this. So I'll keep talking about this until I have no breath left. You should too. You should be talking about this too.
So by now you've probably heard about the Supreme Court ruling that it's okay for ICE agents to profile people based on their race or their location or their job or the language that they speak. But technically they only ruled on a temporary order. There's a district court in California that said that ICE agents couldn't profile people based on their race. And that specific order went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court struck it down. And that means that the case at the district court is still going to go forward. But then if that case ends up getting to the Supreme Court again, we have to just hope that the Supreme Court doesn't take it, or it chooses not to rule on that specific issue. I'll keep you all updated. This is a lot.